Now, while this debate on booster doses is ignited there by Dr. Kiran Majumdar-Shaw, Prime Minister Narendra Modi was at the World Economic Forum's Davos address, virtually addressing the World Economic Forum today, where he has once again stressed on India's role in the world vaccination drive, saying India had given the world a bouquet of hope. The Prime Minister hailed India's IT professionals, who he said had worked round the clock, and also called for a collective decision on cryptocurrency. Listen in to the Prime Minister's One Earth, One Health push during his virtual address.
भारत जैसी मजबूत डेमोक्रेसी ने पूरे विश्व को एक खूबसूरत उपहार दिया है, एक बुके ऑफ होप दिया है। इस बुके में है हम भारतीयों का डेमोक्रेसी पर अटूट ट्रस्ट। इस बुके में है 21वीं सदी को एम्पावर करने वाली टेक्नोलॉजी। इस बुके में है हम भारतीयों का टेम्परामेंट, हम भारतीयों का टैलेंट। 2022 की शुरुआत में जब हम दावोस में ये मंथन कर रहे हैं, तब कुछ और चुनौतियों के प्रति सचेत करना भी भारत अपना दायित्व समझता है। ये सप्लाई चेन के डिसरप्शन, इन्फ्लेशन और क्लाइमेट चेंज इन्हीं के उदाहरण हैं। एक और उदाहरण है क्रिप्टो करेंसी का। जिस तरह की टेक्नोलॉजी इससे जुड़ी है, उसमें किसी एक देश द्वारा लिए गए फैसले इसकी चुनौतियों से निपटने में अपर्याप्त होंगे। हमें एक समान सोच रखनी होगी। लेकिन आज वैश्विक परिदृश्य को देखते हुए सवाल ये भी है कि मल्टीलेटरल ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस नए वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर और नई चुनौतियों के निपटने के लिए तैयार है क्या?
Now, while the Prime Minister was addressing the World Economic Forum, the Oxfam NGO has released its World Inequality report ahead of the World Economic Forum, where it claims inequality kills and has brought some unsettling numbers to share with all. Oxfam claims the income of 84% of households in India declined in 2021, but at the same time, the number of Indian billionaires grew from 102 to 142. According to Oxfam, India's wealthiest 10% accounted for 45% of the national wealth, while the share of the bottom 50% is just 6%. The report says the richest 98 Indians own the same wealth as the bottom 55.2 crore people in India. The report says the total wealth of India's top 100 is 57.3 lakh crores, saying that more than 4.6 crore Indians are estimated to have slipped into poverty during the pandemic. The study finds that the wealth of the 10 richest would be enough to fund school and higher education of children in the country for 25 years. Controversial, contentious report. Joining me now is Amitabh Behr, CEO Oxfam India. Appreciate your joining us, Mr. Behr. There'll be those who will say that it's unfair to single out India at all in terms of inequalities during the pandemic. This is happening globally. Globally, you've seen that people are being pushed into lower incomes because of the pandemic. Would you agree that therefore India is only a pattern with the rest of the world? You can't only single out India.
Thank you, Rajeep, for inviting me. And I completely agree that India is not an outlier. This is a global trend. We are looking at a global trend. And if you look at our global report, it actually talks of the top 10 richest men who've actually doubled their wealth during this pandemic period. And this is when almost 99% of the people have had a decline in their household incomes. So this is part of a global pattern, but India is no exception. And what we are seeing in India is probably an accentuated story of inequality. And let me also just say that, I would really kind of disagree when you say it's a controversial report, because inequality is here. And no surprises, because if we have been tracking inequality, even in IMF and the World Bank are talking of inequality as one of the biggest threats to the economic systems and to the society that we have. So inequality is here. Maybe the numbers.
No, I'll tell you, Mr. Baer, why. No, I'll tell you why I say it's controversial. It's controversial because there will be those who will say that this report reflects a very socialistic mindset of the world, that you need wealth creators at the end of the day to ensure that people who are below the poverty line or who are suffering in incomes, their income is lifted. So it's almost as if you're targeting wealth creators.
Yeah. So, that's why I took the example of the World Bank and the IMF. I did not talk of socialist economist or the left leaders. I'm talking of the World Bank and IMF, which is clearly saying that these levels of inequality are not sustainable. And if you really look at the numbers, inequality has been growing at a dramatic pace. And it's exploded at the moment. So I really don't think that there's a debate at the moment about whether inequality is growing or not. I think there might be some debate about how you address it. But I do see, in fact, if you look at what's happening around the world globally, there's so many countries which have seen actually social unrest related to inequality. And this is a fact that whether you look at the UN Secretary General, the IMF chief, it is being again and again talked of. And the pandemic was that period where we saw the numbers that you have already discussed. But you and I saw this happening through our own personal experiences. When you looked at the migrant crisis, when you saw the second wave, it is a dramatic rise in inequality that needs to be addressed square and center as a top priority for around the globe and certainly also for India.
I just have a minute more. While your report puts these hard numbers out there, does it offer any solution at all? Is there a solution at all? For example, when you say that the wealth of the 10 richest is enough to fund school and higher education of children in the country for 25 years, that's a dramatic statement to make, but it's not going to happen. So do you have a real solution?
So there are solutions, Rajeep. Let me just start by saying that we are strongly recommending a wealth tax. And let me say that it's not unthinkable. We have just seen Argentina actually implement a wealth tax. They've been able to raise $2.5 billion to tackle the pandemic. I think we had a wealth tax till a few years ago. So it's time that we reintroduce wealth tax. But I think we need to go even beyond wealth tax. We've seen the Pandora paper. The second is, what is critical is that we need to ensure that the billionaires, the super rich, pay their fair share of taxes. And the third, I think, which is very, very important is, and there are enough academic studies which tell us that education and health are key drivers of equality. I think we need to invest in education and health big time. And we've done lip service, but look at even in the pandemic year, we've seen a cut in the health budget. So we need to really get the social sector on top and then really invest very, very seriously. The promise of investing 2 to 3% of GDP on health has not been met for decades now.
Let's leave it there. Clearly, as I said, your report throws up lots of troubling questions and issues that require urgent answers to. But I appreciate you joining us and giving us a sense of just why you believe this inequality report is so important at the times in which we live. Thanks very much, Mr. Baer, for joining.